Ah, good evening. My name is Sven van Hassel, and I'm from Sweden. Well, Bavaria and Sweden. My ancestors come from Bavaria, and I've been living in Sweden for some time. So I still have a little bit of Bavarian accent, even though I'm Swedish. So anyhow, tonight's story will be Hansel and Gretel, a very old Bavarian Swedish story. Some may say it's from Germany, but no, it's definitely Swedish. Hoody, hoody, hoody. Okay, well, let's start. Right, there was a sister and a brother, and they lived with their parents, well, stepmother and father. And the father was very, very poor, and he was a woodcutter and didn't earn any money. And his stepmother was, their stepmother was absolutely horrible to them, and she was always saying, well, Hansel and Gretel, they eat too much, and we need to get rid of them. They're rubbish. So they need to go into the forest, and we'll leave them there. Okay. So Hansel and Gretel's father says, I'm going to have to take you into the forest, he says, and leave you there. And that's what he did. So he took them into the forest and left them there. And he was very, very sad. And the stepmother was very, very glad, because she didn't like them at all. Which happens in a lot of families sometimes. So, anyhow, they wandered through the forest, and they had some mushrooms and some berries, and the mushrooms were very nice, and they had a very, very good time. And then they came across a candy house. It was all candy all over. There was Smarties and gingerbread, and everything was right. And this little old lady, she came up behind them, and they says, why don't you come into the candy house? She says, there's even more food inside, you come in. So she invited them in, and they had tea and cakes and all manner of food, and they was very, very happy and very, very fat and very, very tired. And before long, they both went to sleep. And when they woke up, the little boy, he was in a cage, and the girl, she was very, very, very frightened, because the lady, she was actually a witch, a horrible witch, yes. And she had the little girl slaving after her, making her donning her socks, and she was really, really horrible, more horrible than the mother-in-law. Stepmother, shall we say. Yes. So anyhow, this went on for ages and ages and ages, and the witch says, right, and you keep feeding him in that cage until he gets big and fat, and I'm going to eat him, because I like little boys to eat. So anyhow, the sister, she kept slaving and slaving for this witch, and then she says, right, put that boiling water on the big cauldron, and ready for me to eat your brother, because he's getting very fat and plump now, and I can smell him. He's nice. So anyhow, she says, I wonder if it's hot enough for me to put the boy in yet. So she was leaning over the cauldron, and as she left over the cauldron, the little girl jumped up and pushed her, and she fell into the cauldron and boiled to death. Bubble, 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 bubble. Oh, it was so good. And she let her brother out, and they ate a few more cakes and things. But all over the house there was gold and all sorts of really, really precious gems and everything. So she says, right, why, brother, we can take all this home. We can take this to my father, because he's very poor, and perhaps he might let us live there again. So anyhow, they found their way out of the forest eventually, and then came home, The father had already got rid of the stepmother. He'd had enough of her. She was horrible. And then he saw the children, and he was so joyed to see the children because he really did love his children. And then they bought sacks of gold, and they never had to want again, ever. So that is the story of Hansel and Gretel. And let us all know that you always have to look after your loved ones and never give them up, because a witch might get them and boil them and eat them. Okay, that is tonight's story, and I hope you've enjoyed it. This is Sven from Sweden, and we might meet again. Oh yes, there's a song there, we'll meet again. Yes, don't know where, don't know when. But that's okay, because that's the way it goes. We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some Swedish day. Okay, good night, have a lovely evening, and sleep tight. And I'm going to my beds now. Bye.